This is Pete Feenstra on Friday the 17th of February in the heart of London, talking to Beth Hart. I think this is your fourth visit, I shouldn't say tour, fourth visit to the UK.
I think it might be a few more than that over the years, but this is maybe the fourth or fifth visit where we actually have people coming to shows.
Yeah, big
Yeah.
shows. And actually we're here to talk about Saturday the 25th of February, which is
Yes.
your biggest ever UK show.
Yes.
I mean, do you see a parallel in the way that your career took off in Holland at the Paradiso and places like Denmark?
God, I mean, I hope so, yeah. In Holland, it was a little bit funny because it was kind of like a overnight thing where we booked a tiny show at Paradiso and then they sold it out quickly and then they took it downstairs. So it was more of a surprise thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
But the same kind of exponential things happened over here, really. You've gone from quite small clubs to now 2,000 seats.
I can't believe we're going to play Shepherd's Bush. Yeah, I can't believe it. It's great.
And I guess one of the reasons is, of course, that you're getting great radio airplay.
We're getting
both from My California and your album with Joe, Don't Explain.
Yeah.
How do you balance the two? One being a kind of soul blues album, one being a kind of singer-songwriter, your own very personal album as it was.
Yeah.
How do you manage to put the two into one set?
Well, usually in the past, most of my records have combined both anyway.
Right.
And then My California, we just decided to take it a much more focused genre way, and then Don't Explain kind of took me back to my roots anyway. So I've always in the shows kind of mixed it up a little bit.
Yeah. And you say it takes you back to your roots. One of the obvious things is that Etta James is a big influence on you, I guess Janice is. How come you never really approached singing them before? Or recording them before, I should say.
Yeah, I don't think it was really a market for it. And when I was young, especially it was the whole grunge thing. Yeah. Of course, the singer-songwriter thing has always kind of been happening, especially with pop radio. Yeah. But probably that. But when I first started out in my teens, playing around Los Angeles, that was the kind of music that I was doing. Aretha Franklin, Etta James, Otis Redding kind of stuff. Yeah. Especially with the Chitlin circuit, because we did a lot of singing down there, because you could win a contest by covering this kind of material, especially down South Central. Yeah. So that's really what I did.
So you played quite a few shows in the South?
No, actually it was South Central, Los Angeles.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, and it was a great time. Great time, yeah.
So are you kind of amazed or surprised that you know, leaping forward a few years, that kind of music is now suddenly on the radio?
Isn't it fantastic? Yeah, and I gotta give it up to Amy Winehouse. I think that she was the one who opened it up and brought it to the forefront. It's so wonderful because it's such great music.
Yeah,
such great music.
At the Dingwall show, which wasn't that long ago, The Other Side of Christmas, which was a great show, your last London show. I think you played about 6 or 7 tracks from Don't Explain. I mean, what's the balance going to be this weekend?
Well, I'm still so in love with the record that we're going to keep playing quite a bit of it. Yeah, we may always play quite a bit of it because I loved it so much.
Well, you kind of stamped your authority on that, and one of the questions I was going to ask you actually was, looking at your career as a kind of linear thing, you've gone from being a kind of rock chick, I guess, to very you know, confessional singer-songwriter thing that we just talked about in Los Angeles, and now you're doing now you're in this role of an interpreter of song. I'm just wondering, how does that change your approach to either recording or singing, if at all?
It has affected the way I've been writing for the past year, and I'm getting ready to make a record in a couple of months. Yeah. So I definitely think it's going to stay on course with that. Yeah. There'll be a few singer-songwriter things. It'll still be a little bit of an eclectic record, but I think it's going to be going more in that focus of song.
Well, it was quite a change because My California, apart from the fact it's a very personal album and you put yourself on the line, lyrically speaking, it seemed to be that was the direction you were going to go in, singer-songwriter, more piano, more considered. And here we are now, you're in a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, well, let me go. I can't get away from it, no, yeah.
Oh, I think that's absolutely great. And I've got to say, how did you ever, I've got to ask rather, how did you ever leap from Beethoven to Sabbath and Zeppelin as your influences?
Probably partying a little bit when I was young.
But that's what you first did. You played classical piano when you were young, right?
Yeah.
So that was kind of an interesting thing. So Rooney Westberg, I think I pronounced his name right. He was your producer on My California.
Yes.
And he brought you in that direction, I think, of bringing yourself out through the songs.
Yeah, he was very strong about that because I've always had, like I said, previous records peppered a little bit of that, and he said, wouldn't it be nice to have a whole album of that? And he really pushed for it, because I would never been comfortable doing one.
Right, genre?
Yes, and he was like, come on, let's do it for once in your life, and then afterwards you never have to do it again.
Wow.
So yeah, that was his idea.
And people picked up on that?
A little bit, yeah.
Particularly in Europe?
Mm.
Is that a fair comment?
Yes.
Particularly, and the interesting thing about that is you're in a long line of Southern Californian singer-songwriters bands and blues bands who've come to Europe, established themselves, done really, really well, and then gone back home and tried to do the same. I mean, do you see yourself as doing that as well?
Well, it started out as the U.S. was really what was happening for me, and then
the early 90s?
Yes, and then by the end of 2000, I had my most success in the States.
Yeah.
And then it kind of stopped, and because I'd gotten a call more so than ever from like Netherlands and Northern Europe, and then it ended up having more success there than anywhere else. So you go where people want you, you know. And
so that was record company led that brought you over here, or record company interest?
It was an interest, and it was more of like a trial. There was a little bit of a buzz, so they were, and we had no idea. Yeah. So once we came over, we just kept chasing that and having so much fun.
And the funny thing about that is, not funny, but I mean, given the fact that a lot of your songs are lyric led, and there you are in Denmark, which is an imperceptible language. You can't get into it in Dutch, which I am. It's an even harder language. And they all seem to know what it's about, and they all seem to kind of
their English is fantastic, yes,
yeah.
So they definitely understand. And they also, at least with me, have seemed to be really open to the different influences genre-wise.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Holland loves to rock, so the set is a bit different in each
Oh, really?
place. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And just finishing off on the production side of it, we just mentioned Room there. What about Kevin Shirley? What was different about him that made you be so good, or give you this new persona on the new record?
Well, they're both fantastic. You know, they really are, and they have certainly their different ways. But one of the things that I love so much about Kevin is he really is in control, but he doesn't let anyone know it. And I was thinking, why does he have this style? Why does he do it this way? And I was just assuming in my own head that he really wants you to feel as confident as possible and to really do what you would naturally do.
Yeah.
So what your first instinct would do in the approach. And not with just the vocals. I noticed him do it with every musician in the room.
Okay. And he's a former musician himself, of course.
Is he?
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's so great.
He's got that kind of feel for it.
Yeah.
And the way you approach the singing, the recording session as such, I mean, on 37 Days, that was very, very live.
Yes.
On My California, I think you did all the songs as you wrote them.
Yeah, as we wrote them, which was interesting.
A hell of a
trip. It was different. Yeah.
And on Don't Explain, what was the approach for that?
Well, that was very live in a different way. I mean, we had 4 days of recording, and we did 3 or 4 songs a day. And then at the end of it all, we chose 10 after we'd mixed and done strings and that.
10 from about a lot of songs?
No, from 12. It was a total of 12. Okay. Yeah. And you know, it was easy. It wasn't easy in terms of my mind thinking about it. I was definitely a bit, oh my God, how am I going to cover these such great songs vocally without offending anybody? And then also playing in the room with those caliber of musicians. And I'd never worked with Kevin before, so my nerves were up. But it was so great how I walked in. We briefly went over the arrangement, and he said, "Okay, everybody, just go in and go." And the tape is running. So run everything down 3-4 times, and then we'll choose the best track, and that's just what we did.
And on songs like Chocolate Jesus, you've given it that kind of French feel. Was that your idea, or was it something that happened when you recorded it?
I was just I'd been familiar with the songs for years, and usually whenever I'm getting ready to go in the studio anyway, whether I'm playing piano on it or not, I always mess with things at home, and then I'm free to work with the range and whatnot vocally. And it was just a simple little punchy thing to do. And I didn't assume that they would want to do it, but when I got into the studio and did that, he was like, "Great, we'll do it that way." Wow. It's just as quick as that. Which kind of must have made you feel good at the time. It did. Relaxed and, yeah, it did. And people asked me to ask you, what was it like working with Joe? You did a duet with him, which I kind of a different kind of a song. Bromley and Bramlett, whatever it is. You know, it's a different kind. It's different from the rest of the album, but it works. Yeah, it is different, and I wasn't sure about it. In fact, it was my least favorite. And it wasn't until the moment that he got up on the mic and we sang it together that I really liked it. I was, oh, I can see why you want to do this song. It is a great song. Just took me a minute to get it. Yeah.
A minute. Yeah, well, it's a remarkable album in respect to the fact it's got a great production, but it's also very organic. It doesn't feel too stilted. Some of them are really original arrangements, like we were just talking about, and others are classics that you bring a whole new approach to, which I think is great.
Thank you.
And hopefully we're going to see some of that at Shepherd's Bush Empire, which would be really cool. Well, another thing I'm thinking about is you've got a regular tour band, of course, great band, but you haven't recorded much with them.
Yeah, I've only done, with my band now, I did a Leave a Light On record and 37 Days record, and that's been it so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to My California, the thing that's being played on the radio at the moment, Sister, which is doing really well.
Yeah.
That's a song that you said that you didn't really want to put out in America too much, but you felt more comfortable by having it out in Europe. But presumably if this is doing well here now, it'll go back to the States anyway. And
yeah, we'll see. Yeah,
But you must have, I mean, that was a personal song about your sister, but I mean, that was on, you know, that's the tenure of that album, I guess. My California was all like that.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that, well, let me ask you something about LA particularly. Okay. You've said that in the past you felt a bit kind of intimidated by the whole career trip over there that people are on. And yet it's always been a breeding ground for singer-songwriters, what I call confessional singer-songwriters, who seem to feel the need to, you know, write about themselves and their feelings, which is great, you know. But for a society and a town that is so kind of career-driven, it's a kind of almost a contradiction.
Isn't it?
You know, people kind of opening themselves up, and yet, you know, they could almost be not. But that's it. I mean, you seem to be one in a long line of people like that. What have you got a take on that? Did you ever?
I mean, it feels good to be confessional. Okay. It doesn't feel so good to go into it in the interviews, probably, because you don't get to hide behind your piano and the vocal and get up into all that. But yeah, I mean, I was just online yesterday looking at some of the real confessional singer-songwriters. And Ray LaMontagne, oh my God, so amazing. And I was sitting there with my husband, watching him, and just thinking, you know, every line are those lines that you just go, God, I wish I'd been able to write that line. Yeah. And it's one after another. And I think that, you know, in the States, there's, it's people really respect that and want that, demand that. I think especially in that kind of music. It's almost like the music won't work unless the lyric is really powerful like that. Kind of poetic and vulnerable like that.
And it goes, you know, it kind of goes back to, I don't know if you ever heard of Julie Sill, did you? Julie Sill, she was great, well, she was a great singer from the 70s. Randy Newman, you know, all these kind of people. He was a kind of more ironic and funny twist on it. But this is a good time for you to be in that kind of what I call conveyor belt, because you know, there's a wide open field and you got a whole new generation of people into this. Do you feel, in that respect, do you feel that Don't Explain has brought you a new audience?
I definitely think it has. It really has, and it's definitely opened up some doors, which has been so fantastic. Not just that the doors have been open, but that the doors have been open to that kind of music, which is so much fun to do. And also can be very vulnerable in the lyric, but different. Yeah. Certainly different. And it's nice to kind of take a break away from what I've done on the last few records and go into more of that. You know, I feel like I've kind of come full circle to be able to do that. I got a call.
Well, you've matured as an artist, you know, that's for sure.
I hope so.
No, go ahead, you're going to say.
I just got a few phone calls from childhood friends that would listen to Don't Explain, and they said, you were doing this stuff when you were a teenager, and it's so great to hear you do this for the first time on a real studio recording. And I was just talking to my mom too, and she's like, oh, I can't stop playing it. And it was, oh God, it's been so cool. It's going to influence the next record big time.
So will there be a big push on Don't Explain in the States as there has been in Europe?
I don't know. You know, I've just, the label I am for Europe has now taken me on for the United States. I haven't had a deal in the United States for years and years. No. So I haven't released really any music there until now, coming up.
So the supplementary question would be, when you go back to the States as Beth Hart, you know, the star in Europe and everything else, what will be your style when you go back there? How will you present yourself?
I think I'll always do what I've done, a mix of soul and rock and storytelling. But I know for this next record I do, even though it still will be a bit eclectic, it's going to be focusing more of gospel influence, soul, rock and roll.
Yeah.
And then there will certainly be some confessionals. I'm a little burnt out on the confessionals, I have to say. I think I've written it all out of me.
Well, yeah,
so,
you know, they're great, great songs. You know, and people believe in you. That's a really great thing.
Nice.
Now, you've also been in Nashville songwriting, I believe.
Yeah.
Is that looking to find a new way approach to songwriting to broaden
No. It's just working with you know, other fantastic writers and learning and growing and being challenged by them. I've been working with a lovely guy named James House, who's also an extraordinary singer. And it's just wonderful. I feel like I'm always learning when I write with other people. I do enjoy to write on my own, and I don't think it's so much control factor. It's just you get to get out your whole way of looking at
the approach must be different when you actually collaborate with somebody else. It is,
and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Sometimes it sucks, but usually it's wonderful.
I mean, does that break down into music and lyrics divide, or do you actually collaborate on
both?
Words as well?
Yeah, yes.
And how do you, when you work with somebody else like you are in Nashville, how do you search out the topics?
It just happens that day, yeah. Usually we'll get together first and have a little bit of coffee and talk for a minute, or someone will have an idea when they come in the room, you know, and then you just chase that idea. But I find it just comes kind of from what the moment feels like, or what the news on the TV, you know, is, and has it affected you,
You've also said about your career that you feel at one point you felt it was like a second chance.
Definitely.
Do you now feel that this feels completely new? It's like a whole new thing, particularly on the back of this new album?
You know, ever since the beginning of that second chance, around 2001 and 2, I continue to feel that way. You know, maybe because I'm older too, and I realize the gift of getting to do what you love now more than ever before. So I always feel like anytime I get a call and say, hey, we're going to do another tour, or we're going to go do some promotion, I really do always feel like, wow, I'm really lucky.
But presumably you feel more at ease with yourself now. You know who you are.
Sometimes the insecurity still comes up, because I'm always trying to search, you know, as a writer too, to try and break away from what is my comfort zone, and that's not easy for me.
That can
I want
be
to
a
stay
creative
comfortable.
source, I guess.
Yes, it can be. Or it can just kick my butt and make me feel like a loser, so it just depends.
Well, we're doing this for GetReadyToRock.com, so I should ask you, you've been on tour with Jeff Beck.
Yes.
And you've recorded with Slash.
Yes.
How are both of those experiences, and how did they differ?
Unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, they're both different and they're both similar, you know. Also with Joe, the similarities I've noticed is great humility. And being able to work with others, so incredible. I mean, incredible. Maybe because they are so confident in what they do. They know how to, their ability, they can do anything. So there's not a lot of that insecurity in the room where you have to do it my way. There's a lot of generosity, and I noticed that with all three of them. Jeff Beck is the most enthusiastic person maybe that I've ever written with.
Which is great given his age. Fantastic.
Oh my God, he's like working with a teenager who's just starting out, and he's so excited, and that was extraordinary experience for me. Not only getting to watch him play night after night, which was beyond, but it was the personality of him, the kindness and the focus and the you know, enthusiasm.
But the fact that all those people were drawn to you
made me feel so good.
No, that's really good. And he played at the Beacon Theatre, of course, with Joe on his DVD. Was that a one-off date?
It was two in a row. They filmed both and then cut what was their favorite bits from each night.
Oh, really?
And it was great because a couple of different great artists were there. John Hyatt.
Oh yeah, I know.
It was incredible.
Another great songwriter, of course.
Oh my God, so great.
Well, we're looking forward to this Shepherd's Bush Empire. It should be an absolute blast.
Awesome.
And we hope you don't leave it too long before you come back again and do
me too.
tour.
Yes.
Because not everybody can get to the London shows, of course. Yes. Anyway, it's been Pete Feenstra talking to Beth Hart for GetReadyToRock.com. Big thank you to Eric on the camera. Good afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon.